Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, pull them apart, and really get to the heart of the knowledge and insight within. Today, we're diving into something pretty extraordinary. The world of UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Right.
And we're doing it through the firsthand experiences of a guy named Jake Barber. He's a whistleblower, claims a really remarkable backstory.
Yeah, it involves military operations, classified missions.
Yeah.
And he says direct encounters with tech that's, well, not human.
Exactly.
So our mission today for you is to really unpack Jake Barber's claims. We're looking at extensive interviews, even body language analysis of his testimony, because this isn't just a story about, lights in the sky.
Yeah.
It's about what it all implies. Government secrecy, human consciousness, maybe the nature of reality itself.
Heavy stuff.
It is. What's fascinating, though, is how his personal journey, it challenges these fundamental assumptions we all have about what's knowable, what's believable. So, let's unpack this.
All right, let's start right at the beginning. How does someone like Jake Barber become this whistleblower? His path was unconventional, to say the least.
Definitely. Born in the 70s, grew up thinking UAPs were just, science fiction, like Star Wars, Star Trek, like a lot of us.
Yeah.
But his childhood wasn't easy. He talks about an abusive home environment, which actually led him to live outdoors a lot.
Right, fostering this early independence he mentions.
Exactly. And he had these strong mentors in his grandfathers, both military officers, quite influential. One was naval, a precursor to the SEALs, apparently.
Wow.
The other, an army captain and salesman. They saw something in him early on.
The 4 eyes, he calls them.
Yeah, imagination, intellect, intuition, and instincts. That intuition part seems key, doesn't it? Comes up again and again.
It really does. So he gets expelled from high school, and his grandfathers, they see these abilities and steer him towards the military.
And the recruitment wasn't your standard sign-up. Not at all. He went through this series of intense tests near UCLA. Physical, physiological, psychological, even creative tests.
Creative tests.
Okay. And the IQ results were pretty striking, 138 normally.
Which is high.
Very high. But then 152 under a stress IQ test. They put an oxygen mask on him. Induced stress.
That's intense.
Right. And he says this experience actually formed his philosophy, finding comfort in chaos, seeing things clearer under pressure.
You can almost see how that would shake someone in high-stakes fields.
Absolutely. So he gets recruited into this new, very specialized 10-year program, Guaranteed Training Education Program, GTEP, for Air Force Special Operations.
And the Air Force itself plays a big role in his story. He describes it as unique.
He does. He says it's always straddled the blue-black line, the open world versus the highly classified black world.
Since 1947, he notes, right after Roswell.
The timing is significant for him, yeah. He sees a connection there.
So how does he get into this elite program?
Through combat control, Air Force Special Warfare. Took 2.5 years of specialized training. But it wasn't just about skills.
Right, it was about thinking differently.
Exactly. And he had a cover identity. Airplane mechanic.
Okay.
He did work on flight lines, but his real training was through all these clubs. Parachute clubs, scuba, weapons, pilot, Spanish, even entrepreneur and paramedic clubs. Became an expert marksman.
So a jack of all trades, but highly specialized.
Highly. His ultimate role, though, was red team expert. Opposition force, or OPFOR.
Meaning?
His job was basically to break things, to find vulnerabilities in the blue team, the standard forces. He says he had boundless liberty to disrupt things.
That's quite the job description. And he's upfront about deception being key.
He is. Quotes the art of war. Deception is the first rule. He even says, you can't really know if I'm red teaming you now.
Which is a bit unsettling, given what he's claiming. How do you handle that?
Well, he follows it up with, you will know me by my fruits. And interestingly, the body language analyses we looked at seem to back him up, particularly on the big claims. They suggest conviction, not deception.
Okay, so deployments.
Bosnia, Kuwait. Earned a heroism medal in Bosnia chasing war criminals. But he says his case officer squashed it.
Why?
He doesn't fully explain, but it hints at the kind of hidden controls happening.
And then there were the mystery boxes.
Right. Part of his duties involve security and escort for high-value targets, HVTs, often these sealed containers or mystery boxes.
And one mission went wrong, health-wise.
Terribly wrong.
Oh.
He experienced severe, unexplained symptoms afterwards. Complete body hair loss, skin peeling, nausea, a new heart murmur, autoimmune disorders. Just awful.
Heavens, and he thinks it was radiation.
From an exotic, maybe non-human source, yeah. He specifically notes the lack of hazmat protocols, which seems negligent at best.
Or intentional.
That's the implication, perhaps. What's really striking here is he's now being treated by Dr. Gary Nolan.
The Stanford immunologist.
That's the one. And Dr. Nolan has seen similar, very specific symptoms in other UAP experiencers. He mentions John Burroughs from the Rendlesham Forest incident in 1980.
The Rendlesham case. Wow.
Apparently, Burroughs has the exact same heart issue as Barber. That kind of medical correlation is hard to dismiss. It suggests a pattern.
It really does. So moving forward, after 9/11, Barber leaves the military.
Becomes an independent contractor, sets up businesses, gets his commercial helicopter pilot license, does work on government contracts.
And a lot of this work is on the range.
Yes, this secret area for testing advanced weapons, experimental craft, government and private partners.
And he starts seeing things out there.
Regularly.
Yeah.
Interesting objects, he calls them initially. Things changing shape, color, speed, disappearing, reappearing, moving through the ground even.
But he thought they were human tech at first.
Yeah, advanced drones, secret aircraft, that kind of thing. Plausible, given the location.
Until the egg.
Until the giant white egg.
Yeah.
That changed everything for him. His first clear encounter, he says, with something non-human.
Describe it again.
About 20 feet long, pearly white, asymmetrical, smooth, seamless. Weighed less than 5,000 pounds.
And the body language analysis here was significant.
Very. According to the analysis we reviewed, his sincerity markers were high. Direct statements, subtle nods agreeing with his own words, no signs of deception like duper's delight, just conviction.
And the physics-defying part.
No visible propulsion. Yeah. No thermal signature, just hanging there. Impossible by our current understanding.
The retrieval itself was a surprise.
Completely unexpected, he claims. They had to change comms, security protocols on the fly because nobody was expecting this.
And later, confirmation.
High-ranking UAP task force members apparently confirmed it to him. Non-human anomalous craft.
And now he claims.
What?
They can summon it.
That's the claim from the sources, yes. He and his current team, Skywatcher Technologies, say they can summon this egg in broad daylight, track it at speeds between 3,000 and 11,000 miles per hour.
That is an extraordinary claim.
It is. They say they've shared sensor data with AARO, the official DoD office, and that Dr. Gary Nolan has even witnessed these summoning events. That's a point that requires serious scrutiny, obviously.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the shape has historical precedence.
Yeah, the egg shape pops up in UAP reports globally. Lonnie Zamora incident, 1964 in New Mexico, is a famous one.
Okay, then the second retrieval, the 8 gone.
Right, an octagonal disc, matte black this time. And this one affected him differently.
How so?
He described significant distress, emotional interference during the recovery. He almost crashed his helicopter.
And the body language analysis picked up on this discomfort.
It did. Noticed him closing his mouth, swallowing, raised eyebrows, interpreted as accessing a difficult memory, not deception. His posture became more defensive, suggesting vulnerability. But the analyst felt his account remained honest.
Why the distress? What was different?
He later found out a psionics team was involved that night.
Psionics, like psychic abilities.
That's how he describes it. Remote viewing, telekinesis, tapping into a consciousness field. He suggests there's a huge consciousness component to UAP tech.
So psionic assets are people with these abilities.
Yes. And he says summoning these craft can be man-based, using these assets connection, or machine-based, using signals or energy.
And he connects this to another whistleblower.
Michael Herrera, the Marine, who reported a huge octagonal craft in Indonesia. Barber says his team back-channeled to Herrera.
To clarify what?
Herrera saw containers being loaded onto the craft. Barber's team told him those were likely transporting psionic assets, not drugs or traffic people, as some speculated. He admits psionics is a controversial term, though.
Where do these assets come from?
Often recruited from indigenous communities, third world countries. He suggests it's often voluntary due to economic factors.
Yeah.
Also mentions children and gay men having a higher predisposition, interestingly.
And describes their experience as positive.
Yeah, like basking in a glow of light. It adds this really strange, almost spiritual layer to the whole thing.
Okay, let's shift to the secrecy aspect. Barber doesn't see it as this perfectly organized conspiracy.
Well, not at all. He calls it a Gandli octopus.
Yeah.
Fragmented programs, cover-ups, often uncoordinated. Says top leadership frequently has no idea what's happening on the ground level.
So why the secrecy then, in his view?
Primarily to protect technological advantage. The U.S. doesn't want adversaries getting hold of this stuff, whatever it is.
He makes a distinction between privacy and secrecy.
He does. Privacy is protecting responsibilities. Secrecy is hiding vices or crimes. He thinks most UAP secrecy is the former, protecting national security interests.
But the hidden hand provides deniability.
Plausible deniability for those at the top, yes.
When did he start getting disillusioned?
Around 2018, he saw changes in contracts, leadership, communication. He and his team started questioning who they were really working for.
And the Tough Books incident was pivotal.
Absolutely. Tasked to recover these rugged laptops, Panasonic Tough Books, believed to hold illegally captured evidence of crash retrievals.
He got that.
Recovered 2 books, then later just their hard drives from underwater, 25 feet down. But then a follow-up mission went sideways.
How?
Shots fired, and the HVTs, the targets they were presumably after, were gone. He strongly suspected they were being set up, framed.
So he confronted someone.
A senior security head at a private aerospace company, unnamed, and found this high-level guy trying to wash his hands of the whole issue, distance himself.
So where do you go then? If you suspect you're being set up by forces within the secret world.
He went to Congress, Senate Intelligence Committee, the CIA monitor.
And they helped.
He describes them as ignorant and neutered, utterly powerless. In fact, he says they asked him for protection from harassment they were getting.
That's astounding.
Yeah.
The oversight body's asking the whistleblower for protection.
It paints a picture of a system completely out of control, doesn't it? And underscores his belief that people have been killed to maintain this secrecy.
A very dark claim.
Extremely. So, faced with this, how do you fight back? How do you expose something so convoluted?
The DOPSR gambit.
Exactly. The Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review. They decided to interrogate the review process itself.
By writing a novel.
Historical faction novel, yeah. They submitted it in chunks, 10,000 words at a time.
And seeded it with different kinds of information.
It's cleverly done. 4 categories. Stuff everyone knew was classified, stuff only operators like them knew was classified, classified info that was actually already open source, and then fictional bits linking to real classified stuff.
Cool.
7 pages of redactions from just the first 20 pages of the manuscript.
Wow. So DOPSR, by redacting, basically confirmed that these things he wrote about were classified and sensitive.
Precisely. It forced the system to reveal its hand. It showed how truth could be, as he put it, hidden in a pile of horse shit, or spun as fantasy, but the redactions themselves proved the reality of the underlying classified programs. A brilliant, if risky, move.
So looking ahead now, where does Barber see this going? He seems surprisingly optimistic.
He really does. He thinks the truth has been out for a while, that David Grush really opened the door for others.
And he talks about ontological relief, not shock.
Yeah, the idea that facing this reality won't shatter people, but might actually bring deeper meaning, connection, liberation almost.
And he thinks the bad actors are losing.
He believes the good guys within the system are winning out, despite the risks. Says he feels personally protected by the NHI, the non-human intelligence.
Which is another huge claim.
It is. Tied into that optimism is his new venture, Skywatcher Technologies.
Formed with other former program members.
Yes, a venture-backed private group, but working with government agencies, he says.
Their goal?
Transparency. Producing high-quality evidence, sensor data, photos, film, and legally retrieving UAP craft. Maybe within the next year.
Based on their claimed ability to summon the egg.
That seems to be the foundation, yes. Sharing that data with AO is part of building that transparent approach.
Let's talk about his view of the NHI itself. What does he think it is?
He believes it's real, definitely,
yeah.
But not necessarily aliens from other planets. Could be interdimensional, he suggests, or even somehow part of us.
In their nature. Benevolent.
That's his perception. Benevolent, loving, working for us, a gift. He thinks they respond to positive human energy. Uses an angels and demons. Analogy acknowledges both good and bad energy around the phenomenon. But his personal experiences, profoundly positive.
Does he address the more unsettling aspects, like abduction or biological findings?
He acknowledges the possibility that some biological cargo could be like soft tissue drones or meat robots, sort of biological constructs. But he also warns against being naive. He recognizes the potential for weaponized consciousness, the need for humanity to mature before engaging fully with this.
So it's complex, not just angels.
Definitely not. It's a nuanced perspective, hopeful but cautious.
His final message seems to be about public empowerment.
Very much so. The skies are not classified, your conscience can't be redacted. That's a powerful line.
He wants people to investigate for themselves.
Yes. To humble yourself from the perspective of what you consider believable. Look outward, do the research, but also look inward. Intuition, prayer, whatever works for you.
He even envisions the Air Force openly recruiting for this.
For UAP research and psionic exploration, that shows how mainstream he thinks this could or should become.
And it's personal for him now with his family.
Absolutely. As a new father, he sees UAP disclosure as profoundly important, one of the most important stories in a millennium, offering spiritual knowledge, maybe even new energy tech like zero-point energy.
And he says his kids are already involved.
In this burgeoning work, yeah. It really brings home how deeply invested he is in this future.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? Jake Barber's story is a lot.
It really is. From military operator to whistleblower, his journey forces you to question assumptions about intelligence, secrecy, reality itself.
It's a glimpse into a world that feels, well, much more complex, more interconnected than maybe we usually think, where the extraordinary might just be hiding in plain sight.
And it brings us back to that idea he mentioned, ontological relief. Instead of shock or fear at having your worldview challenged, what if learning about NHI, about these latent human abilities like psionics, is actually liberating?
It raises a huge question, doesn't it?
It does. What if the biggest answers we're looking for about the universe, our place in it, aren't just out there in space, but maybe they're also in here, inside us, waiting to be discovered?
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider the power of belief. The idea, as Jake Barber seems to imply, that the next big step in understanding might not come from waiting for official disclosure.
Right. Maybe it depends more on our collective willingness, yours and mine, to just look up, look within, and perhaps simply know.